Hello, welcome to another day at the Permaculture Shoestring Home and Garden. I'm Cindy, if you haven't already met me, and I'm coming to you from the new workshop. I am staring at the garden. It keeps attracting my attention. This is what I wanted. I wanted to talk to you today about one of my Self-Reliance mishaps, shall we say, that if you remember, I set up some shelves above the extension to the kitchen by the bathroom so that I had a bit more storage space for food storage, and of course it's above the door and I'm a shorty, so I mean it worked perfectly for space for storage, but what I didn't do was get a ladder or something to stand on to get something off, and paid the price for it, because as I stretched up to reach for something, a tin can fell off the shelf and hit me right there on the edge, the bottom edge of the tin, which literally brought tears to my eyes. It was so sore. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's still a little bit of a shadow there from the bruise. How odd it is that you get injured there but get a bruise there. Never mind. But it made me think about setting up projects or systems or whatever it is that you want to use. They might be great ideas, but then is maintaining it and using it safely and properly. Now, it's great finding high spaces and wasted spaces for storage, but then I should have made sure that I had a small ladder on the wall ready to use when I needed to get up to those shelves. So that's a correction I shall be making. They always say that the lessons hardest learned are the ones least forgotten. I'll put that to experience. But it also made me think about the difference between sustainability and regenerativeness, because we hear a lot of people talking still, and I mean we're now on quite a few years from the beginning of movements towards more environmental or sustainable systems of working in all aspects of life. But I thought that there was something that I've been learning over the past, say, 8 years, that there's a difference between sustainable and regenerative. But to talk about sustainability, you need to already have reached a regenerated stage where something is fixed or made better, or at a place where it doesn't do any harm at all anymore. So to call anything we do sustainable, it has to already have been regenerated or fixed or in a perfect working state without causing any harm. Now, environmentally and globally, I'd say we can't say anything is sustainable, not until everything is regenerated. There is Bhutan, the country of Bhutan. If you look at some, there's a lovely, I think it was a TED talk about the country of Bhutan, and that they are now carbon negative. They can talk about sustainable because they've already fixed the problems there. But globally we can't, because we haven't fixed things yet. We're still a long way off from that. But as individuals and in the aspects of our lives, our homes, our gardens, our families, our employment, we can get to a point much easier and quicker where we can say it's sustainable if we have put the system in place and it is working in such a way that it can be sustained. We can come up with fantastic projects and ideas that aren't sustainable. We can't keep them going. For instance, let me see. What is there in our garden that's not sustainable? Yeah, we've built a couple of structures in the garden. See, there I go again. I'm still doing it, the thing. I'll get over it one day. The structure we've built over what will be the oven well, we're getting really well on with that one now. Yesterday we got to do a big milestone and we're ready for the fireproof render on the outside, so I'll keep you updated with that. But the point of that being not sustainable is that by the time that wears out, because it has an oil drum as its center, adds metal and can corrode because it's surrounded by an insulation containing cement. If that corrodes and wears out, we would not be able to get the materials to replace it. So it's not as sustainable. It's not something we can just replace and keep going perpetually without causing any harm or having to spend money, or because technically what we've used has come from different places, has at some point caused harm to the environment in its creation. The roofing felt we've put on that came, it's something we brought back from the allotment with us when we had to do the allotment shed, and the leftovers we kept. So we've used that, and that's great if we've got it in stock, but again, that's not an environmentally sensitive product, roofing felt, and it's not sustainable for us because we might not always have the money to be able to replace it, and it's not going to last that long, maybe 5 years. So an alternative would be better, that would be sustainable, that we could keep going. For me, that would be a living roof, but that would require a much stronger framework and a bit more technical stuff. But that's what I'm talking about. We have lots of things we've set up because they're useful to us. They help us to be more self-reliant. They're in cases for our enjoyment, but they might not necessarily be sustainable. When we're talking about regenerative, I am thinking a living roof on that instance. Just thinking that one example, a living roof, and being able to grow the trees to provide the posts for that structure, that would be more sustainable. That would be regenerative, because I'm not just cutting down, I am coppicing trees in my own land, if I had any, to be able to provide the posts for the structure and to build a living roof on there. That would be regenerative, because I'm not destroying anything and I am replacing things. So that's the kind of difference we're talking about there. But sustainable is not something that we could talk about. It's not living our life environmentally friendly. They're two different things, two different aspects. Now, I might be repeating myself if I keep going, but that was just the thoughts that occurred to me today. I was thinking about, I was talking with a friend the other day about the Extinction Rebellion protests in Cardiff last week and how that went. It was taken differently by a lot of people. Personally, I think it's a good movement. It's a good protest to try and get government to look. People are not happy with your choices and your decisions and your dates on when you're going to achieve carbon neutrality, but we have to do something about it. However, a lot of people came away either hating or loving the thing that happened and criticizing the people, calling them hypocrites because of the way they travelled and the way they dragged their boat around on a trailer, on a vehicle, and then they criticised people for using vehicles. But it wasn't they. It's not an organisation of... it's not an actual organisation. It's a group of people randomly from all over, individuals getting together to protest. They are not an organisation. There's no main structure with a game plan, shall we say, as my friend called it. And I had to remember that there are individuals just getting together to say, look, we're not happy with the situation. We have to do more. What we're doing is not good enough. What the government have chosen to choose as their date is not fast enough. We need to act more swiftly. What would have helped their cause if they had got on board a whole bunch of organisations, because these are not the Extinction Rebellion is not an organization. It's people coming together, individuals from all different walks of life, from different attitudes, from different opinions, but all common in their goal. But if they had organized an event better, if they had somebody to organize and to get on board other organizations like Greenpeace, like local transition groups, permaculture groups, zero waste shops, all that, and instead of just going on about all the negative, bad, horrible things that are happening and all the doom and gloom, they could have put forward people who would give you alternative solutions, not just all the doom and gloom, but hope, show you that there are things already happening on the ground. Individuals are making a move. We can't wait for leaders to make a change. We have to pressure them. Yes, they have to make a change, but we're not going to get very far very soon because they have their own agendas, and there are lots of other organizations, businesses involved who would be threatening, as they already have, especially if you see with Brexit. They have a lot of sway in the way government moves. If you do this, we're going to take our business abroad because we can't sustain it here, blah blah blah. So business has big sway in the way our country is run, which is not the right way that it should go. But that's the situation, and we cannot wait for governments or leaders of anything to make the changes necessary. We have to pressure them until they do, but until then, individuals have more sway. People keep thinking, what can one person do? I'm only one person. It's not going to make one big dent, is it? However, lots of individuals together will. If I had been more prepared for this video, I would have had this little visual demonstration of one little twig that can snap on its own, but in a bundle together it's harder to snap, it's stronger, and it'll have more effect. One little twig in a fire will only last a few seconds, but if you have a whole bunch of twigs together it would last longer. That kind of thing. So there was my thought on a visual for you, but I didn't do that. I wasn't very prepared. But that is just what's been going on in my head. That if we do things the right way, for Extinction Rebellion, it would not be sustainable to keep going the way they are, just randomly doing things without a game plan, without a statement of such, because they're not an organization. Now, if they got organizations on board, that would be more sustainable. Should we get back to that one again? Because they'd be able to get more people on board. And if they'd done it if they had as I said, there's other organizations and people and individuals they could have, and if they had funding, if they were a group, they'd have had funding instead of just people getting together. If they were a group, they'd have been able to get funding somehow or raise their funding to organize events in major arenas like the Cardiff International Arena or something like that, or a stadium, and put up stalls. That would not have disrupted the city as much, because, to be honest, the only thing they disrupted was individuals' lives and ability to get to work. They were very good because they let through ambulances and things that needed to get through emergencies. It was just general traffic that they were stopping. But it interrupted individuals' lives. It did not interrupt the leaders of the governments at all. It just created an annoyance, and people were fed up with them, and people were annoyed because they couldn't come up with solutions, they couldn't come up with answers, and a few of them, not all, a few criticized the people who did interact with them and judged them, that came away feeling that they were just a bunch of people on their high horse criticizing. And it made me think that to do things better, to get our message across in whatever project it is we're doing, whether it's permaculture, whether it's permaculture gardening, whether it's zero waste living, whether it's self-reliance or being prepared, those things, we'd get further sharing that message if we didn't just thrive on doom and gloom but offered solutions. Permaculture is very good at doing that, but there are some issues in that movement as well. But we can do, as individuals, we can make a difference by sharing. That's kind of just what I wanted to share with you, that these things have been going on in my head because of recent events and things that have been going on, and how people are still using that word sustainable without thinking about what that actually means. So generally, I never really use that word sustainable, because to be able to, that's why I'm glad we're getting all our projects done now, to be able to keep supplying the materials that we need for some of the projects that we've done. We would not be able to keep doing that because things change. We import a lot of stuff. Stuff's not always local. It's not always grown locally, so it's not sustainable. So and a lot of the foods that we buy are imported from other places, so that's got a lot of mileage attached to it, let alone all the other aspects. So what I'm trying to do in my self-reliance journey and my permaculture aspects of what I do is try to do things a little bit more every time. Is there something I can change? I haven't chucked out all my plastics. That would be counterproductive. You'd just be putting more stuff in landfill. I reuse what I've got as far as I possibly can. If I can't replace it with something more permanent and less plasticky, then I will try to buy things that have more than one use, that could be reused as often as possible. As far as groceries go, I don't have the luxury or the budget. Now let's face it, to buy from farm shops and zero waste shops are very expensive. It costs a fortune, and it's all well and good saying we'll just buy those things and buy less of other stuff. But when you're already at the kind of budget where everything is down to the basic necessities already, and you still can't afford to go shop at the zero waste shops because it's far more expensive, or the farm shops because they're more expensive, and it's understandable, it would be, because supermarkets can undercut their suppliers, each other, and pay less to suppliers because they buy in bulk, so they have the buying power. And everything's in packaging, usually to do with plastic or foil. So I'm not being two-faced, I'm not being hypocritical. I'm doing the very best I can with what I have and trying where I can to make the changes. So I want people to go away from this video feeling not criticized, not belittled, or told you're not good enough. Your best efforts are good enough, because when you start on something, it starts to snowball and carry on. So keep going. Just do your best. Be aware. And where you can make changes, do it. But if not, don't beat yourself up. There's this thing in society where we beat ourselves up about absolutely everything. If it's not our appearance, if it's not our weight, if it's not our house or our clothing, it's in our permaculture pursuits. Which is counterproductive. It's opposite. So whatever projects we do, we as human beings, we tend to try and compare ourselves and beat ourselves up if we're not measuring up. So just stop it. Don't compare yourself to other people's pursuits in their goals, whatever that may be, whether it be worldly or more spiritual or your environmental pursuits. Just don't beat yourself up. Just do your best. And that is good enough if you keep trying and doing your best and learning what you can. And don't listen to the haters. Before I forget as well, just to break up the monotony of my thoughts, I wanted to show you something that we've done. I promised I would show you the completed project that we did. I've done that. I've made a little video compilation, a little carousel, so I'll put that in now. that's my message for today. As far as my own self-reliance goes, as I mentioned earlier, we are very close to finishing with our outdoor oven, which is part of our backup. It would be nice to use it just because, and also it'll be in the back of our minds that if anything happened as far as power cuts go, or if we really needed to cut our expenses as far as electricity goes, when it comes to cooking and baking, we have outdoor cooking area, and we will be growing our own wood as far as we can as well for coppicing, even though that's going to be a bit tricky in a small city garden. Well, it's not small garden, it's average, but there you go. So that's one step on our self-reliance journey. It has not been cheap, so I cannot call it shoestring. Even though there's been a lot of recycled materials used, we've had to buy in some stuff that we just couldn't source second hand, or things like that. I would love to have built an oven with cob. It's not possible in a city garden, or if you haven't got a huge amount of money. That's just bringing in stuff from outside, so that's just as unsustainable as using the insulation layer that we have. So we're doing the best that we can with what we have, and so that is not a shoestring option. I wouldn't do it again the same way, but I'll talk to you all about that when we've done that finish. Right now we're on way too much, so by the time I've edited this video, hopefully it'll be less than 20 minutes. So my lovelies, whatever your pursuits are, whatever your goals are, do your best and just keep going, and don't knock yourself for things where you're not measuring up, at least to your own goals, nobody else's. Have a good day wherever you are. Oh yes, my grandson's voice came to mind there. If you haven't already done so, would you like, subscribe and click that notification bell, and do feel free to share and comment, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.